Hello again, seventh grade. Here is the second article for this week. Very quickly, you may have heard my phone go off last recording. If you heard that, that was Lexi sending me a DM. Shout out to Lexi. Um, this article specifically is about ancient Egyptian government and social structure. So I'm going to read that aloud to you now. Egyptian society was structured like a pyramid. At the top were the gods, such as Ra, Osiris, and Isis. Ra was the god of the sun and the king of all gods, until Osiris took over. Osiris was the god of the underworld and the afterlife. Isis was the wife and sister of Osiris and the goddess of magic, marriage, healing, and protection. Egyptians believed that the gods controlled the universe. Therefore, it was important to keep them happy. They could make the Nile overflow, causing famine or even bring death. The Egyptians also elevated some human beings to gods. Their leaders, called pharaohs, were believed to be gods in human form and were believed to possess the secrets of heaven and earth. The pharaohs were believed to be manifestations of the falcon-headed god of the sky and war, Horus, son of Isis and Osiris, during their lives, and then becoming the god Osiris when they died and were united with the other gods. The pharaohs had absolute power over their subjects. After pharaohs died, huge stone pyramids were built as their tombs. Pharaohs were buried in chambers within the pyramids, along with everything else they would need in the afterlife. Because the people of Egypt believed that their pharaohs were gods, they entrusted their rulers with many responsibilities. Protection was at the top of the list. The pharaoh directed the army in case of a foreign threat or an internal conflict. Pharaohs often led foreign campaigns to places like Nubia and Libya to Egypt's economic prosperity. All laws were enacted at the discretion of the pharaoh. Each farmer paid taxes in the form of grain, which was stored in the pharaoh's warehouses. This grain was used to feed the people in the event of a famine. The chain of command. No single person could manage all the duties without assistance. The pharaoh appointed a chief minister called a vizier as a supervisor. The vizier ensured the taxes were collected. Here we have a little social pyramid. Take a quick second to read that. That should look a little familiar to what we looked at in ELA in the beginning of the year. Working with the vizier were scribes who kept government records. These high level employees had mastered a rare skill in ancient Egypt. They could read and write. Noble aim. Right below the pharaoh in status were powerful nobles and priests. Only nobles could hold government posts. In these positions, they profited from tributes paid to the pharaoh. Priests were responsible for pleasing the gods. Nobles enjoyed great status and also grew wealthy from donations to the gods. All Egyptians, from pharaohs to farmers, gave gifts to the gods. Soldier on. Soldiers fought in wars or quelled domestic uprisings. During long periods of peace, soldiers also supervised the peasants, farmers, and slaves who were involved in building such structures as pyramids and palaces. Skilled workers such as physicians and craftspersons made up the middle class. Craftspersons made and sold jewelry, pottery, papyrus products, tools, and other useful things. Naturally, there were people needed to buy goods from artisans and traders. These were the merchants and storekeepers who sold these goods to the public. The bottom of the heap. At the bottom of the social structure were slaves and farmers. Slavery became the fate of those captured as prisoners of war. In addition to being forced to work on building projects, slaves toiled at the discretion of the pharaoh or nobles. Farmers tended the fields, raised animals, kept canals and reservoirs in good order, worked in the stone quarries, and built royal monuments. Farmers paid taxes that could be as much as 60% of their yearly harvest. That's a lot of hay. Social mobility was not impossible. A small number of peasants and farmers could get ahead in life and move higher up the social pyramid. Families saved money to send their sons to school to learn how to do certain jobs. These schools were run by priests or by artisans. Boys who learned to read and write could become scribes, then go on to gain employment in the government. It was possible for a boy born on a farm to work his way up to the higher ranks of the government. Government jobs could make an Egyptian rich. Rights of women. Women in ancient Egypt could be rulers, like Cleopatra or Hatshepsut. Women rulers did not claim to be Horus, though. Cleopatra said she was the reincarnation of the Egyptian goddess Isis. Hatshepsut claimed to be the daughter of the god Amun, the most popular and powerful god of the time. But what about the common folk? A woman's role as mother and wife still came first in Egyptian society. Some professions in which a woman worked included weaving, perfume making, and entertainment. Egyptian women could have their own businesses, own and sell property, and serve as witnesses in court cases. Unlike most women in the Middle East, they were even permitted to be in the company of men. They could escape bad marriages by divorcing and remarrying, and women were entitled to 1/3 of the property their husbands owned. The rights of Egyptian women enjoyed made them the most liberated females of their time. Yay, go women. So now we have another quiz following the article, and then boom, stop. And then we have our last thing for this week. Quick article at Ancient Egypt. As I was reading that, I was thinking a lot about what we learned about with our social pyramids during medieval Europe. How is it similar? How is it different? Kind of get that nice thinking in your brain. I'll see you again for the very last read aloud for Friday, April 24th.